me do it for you.
Baby, don't forget the floor is yours. Yeah, baby, I mean the floor is yours. If it come down to the floor is yours, let me show you how prove the floor is yours. 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 The floor is yours.
Good evening, good Tuesday, Wednesday evening. It's kind of threw me off a little bit because we had a short week because of the holiday. But here we are, and I got my homie IC. It's been a while. Everybody, y'all know the game. It's another episode of the Floor is Yours podcast where we bringing you the hot topics, the good people, the great discussions, sometimes a little tears here and there, but it's going to be a great show. We got a great, beautiful guest on here. We'll get to that in a minute, but I'm going to kick it over to IC and let her do what she do.
Well, it's good to be back on the screen to say hello to everyone. We have missed you all, and we are going to get back more consistent with this thing. But so while we're in progress of doing all of that, we want you to remember to like, share, subscribe, YouTube, LinkedIn, IG, TikTok, all social media platforms. We need you to be on there doing all of those things. Hit that ding ding, share it so that we can let everybody know that we are still up and pumping and ready to move, shake, and make things happen.
All of that. Man, we got a special guest, my longtime friend, classmate, love you long time, buddy. Hey, I want to say something before I introduce you and let you talk. I want everybody out there to listen to her accent, see if you can guess where she's from before she tell you. But this is fun. So just go ahead, take a moment, let us know who you are and what brings you to the show.
Well, first, I have to say thank you so much for having me. I'm excited, nervous, and everything in between. Flex, we go way back. I see it is nice to officially meet you, and I am excited to be here. I am Stacey Jefferson. For those of who know me from Texarkana, I am from Texarkana, maiden name Stacey Taylor. I am a 1994 graduate of the Texas High Tigers, class of 94. I am also an alumni of Stephen F. Austin State University, where I earned a Bachelor of Arts in Communication and a Master of Interdisciplinary Studies. I am a proud member of Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated, where I have been a member for 27 years. I am a mother of one. I also have a bonus daughter and a bonus grandson. I've been in Dallas for the last 23 years and just excited to be here and announce the winner of this wonderful scholarship that I have established.
Yeah, so that's good. Appreciate you. That's a lot, and you really didn't even scratch the surface. You're a very, very accomplished woman, and I feel blessed to be in your presence. And even that you even asked us to use our platform.
Yes,
to let you announce
truly,
something. So that's what we're here for, to announce the winner of a scholarship. So just to start the conversation, what made you want to do a scholarship? Because you could have done a number of things to honor. Well, I want to go there. What made you want to do a scholarship?
So as many know, many may not have know, my husband, Chris Jefferson, passed away in 2020, April 10th of 2020, Good Friday. And unfortunately, it was something that we did not plan for, of course. I did not plan to be a widow at the age of 44 or a single mom, but God had different plans for us. And I always say there's a lesson in the journey. There's a lesson in everything. And so during my grieving process, I wanted to find a way to honor my husband, the man he was, the man, the legacy, the spirit. He had such a big personality, and I wanted to honor him in some way and keep it going to show my son that your dad is going to always be here with you. And I think because of the people person that he was, I used to call him Mr. Friendly. He never met a stranger. I thought, what better way to keep it going, because he loved children. He loved kids. If it was up to him, we probably would have had 5 kids. But God blessed us with one, and he has a daughter from a previous relationship. So we were still truly blessed. But I
Yeah.
think by creating this scholarship, especially for high school seniors, it allows me to continue his spirit and his legacy.
Yeah, that's dope. I know
Yeah.
you kind of got in there about his passion for people, but you've told me stories about him being out in the public and actually running into some of the people that he was probation officer for. Can you just talk about that a little bit?
Oh, sure. So he was a juvenile probation officer for 20 years with Dallas County. And it was just amazing the number of children that he touched. Even more recently, my son just graduated high school, and I had a young man reach out to me that remember my husband showed him compassion, even though my husband had to reprimand him as a juvenile probation officer. He remembered, my husband just treating him with respect, treating him like he was a person rather than focusing on maybe what transpired that brought him to Dallas County. And he blessed my son with a small, graduation gift, and I thought that was humongous. I told my son, I said, everything is about the relationships that we cultivate. And over the years, my husband had the opportunity to touch so many young lives. He was like I said, a juvenile probation officer for 20 years. And I can remember being out to dinner, being on date nights. We could be at the fair, whatever. Young men would come up to him, Mr. Jefferson, you remember me? And he might not have remembered them, but the more they talk, he would be like, oh, yeah. And they would sit there and talk. And of course, I'm sitting there going, okay, but it just to me said a testament of who he was. For them to come up, they were excited to tell him what they were doing with their lives, how he touched their lives. And to me, I said, he always said that was his passion, kids, to show them respect, show them that there's a different way than which way they were going. And so it was just a blessing for me to know that he always says, Stacey, it wasn't about the money. I have a passion for what I do. And I think when you have a passion for whatever it is you do, there's not enough money that they could even give you for it.
That's dope. That's dope. I see. I don't know if you want to add on that before we move.
Yeah, I was trying to share. I was sharing it too. But what I do love about this scenario, even though your husband is no longer with us, it is the beauty of the essence of his spirit that you're able to share and to talk about. Because so many times in relationships, we go through things, but sometimes when people leave and go to the other, go on to be with the Lord, we don't have anything to talk about or to leave behind that where they've touched the community. And for me, it's a blessing to just sit here before you because my desire has always to been is to have a partner in covenant that I'm able to do life with, not just as a wife, not just as a mother or a bonus parent or anything like that, but to be effective in the community. That once the essence of my life is gone, or my husband's, that if it was him before me, that there was something about us that was left here in the earth that shifted and impacted the lives of those that we encountered along the way. And you get to sit before us and tell us that, but you also now get to get the residue of his life, which is a good residue. Let me say residue, the fragrance of his spirit and the essence of who he is
Yes.
gets to now prolong life, even though he's gone on, that he's still living here within his spirit because somebody gets to come up to you and to say, hey, your husband blessed my life, even though it may have been a little bit tough. He watched out for me, or he looked out, or he saw something in me. And so that's a nugget that I believe that God and even your husband left here with you, even though the plan didn't go the way you expected it. That's what I was actually putting on there. Remember the essence of a loved one's presence, whose life, when life doesn't go the way we planned. That was what I was going when I was going to attach to what I was going to share. And so with that, you are wealthy even in the
Yes.
absentee of him. You do. I'm
Yes.
going into this I just feel my spirit jumping. You are going into that wealthy place. And so when you're able to sit before someone that has been able to basically walk that path that you wanted to have in life, or that you still desire to have in life with a partner, and to see even though death did come, life still is here, right? And
Yes.
so he still lives on through you. And just to see you sit here poised to be able to stand before us says a lot about how you two intertwine with one another, how y'all are in sync with one another, and the fact that you get to sit here and just to express this to us, and that we could be here to support you, to
Yeah.
love on you, and to know that you're still allowing his memory and the essence of him to still go on to bless somebody else's life. So I commend you. And I'm a girl, I give flowers, even though you can't get them personally. So honey, flowers and kudos
Thank
to you.
you.
I thank God for your strength to move forward, because even if you don't go through a physical death, divorce does make these you feel the same way, and you still have to find that niche to keep going. So I
Yeah,
commend you, and I love you for being able to
thank
be bold
you.
enough to be on here with us.
Thank you so much. I
You're welcome.
always say it's all God. It's truly all God. These
Yes.
3 years have not been the easiest, but I always say there's a lesson to be learned in everything, and there's beauty from all the ashes, even through all the tears, even
Mm.
through all the nighttime. Just remembering him, sitting up talking to my son. There has been so much beauty in all of it. I always say he may not be here with us physically, but he is definitely here in spirit. He is here through my son, through my bonus daughter, even his grandson. So he's going to always be here. I speak his name every day, literally. And of course, when I look at my son, I see nobody but his daddy. So,
That's good. So essentially, what we're talking about is a legacy, and I don't know if y'all actually had that conversation, before, about how important it is or necessary we should move about leaving legacies. And one of the words that you talk about often is being intentional. And you have to be intentional because this world is throwing a number of things at you. And I look at his profession and what he represents and the way he tried to make a difference. Because he can just come in and lock people up, for violations. But it sounded like he was a people person and nurtured people and tried to get them in a genuine way to be better people, and not
yeah,
just like you're in the system. You're just going to process you through. So
exactly.
um, this legacy that you're working on, building and growing, I think it's important. And again, we just honored that you allow us to be a part of it.
No, thank you. I appreciate it. I always say everything, comes together. All things work together for those that love the Lord. And this is just a stepping stone. I've been, you and I have talked, and I'm so many things that I'm manifesting, so many visions that I have of what I want to do. And, as they say, come hell or high water, it's going to get done. I want to show my son, this is what you do when you leave a legacy. This is your dad's legacy, and you get to live it, and we get to keep his name alive.
That's good. So one of the things we talked about earlier was, when you're grieving just under normal circumstances is one thing, but you went through this during COVID.
Yes.
And that was, in my mind, is just compounded and made it a lot more difficult. Can you talk about how COVID affected what you went through?
Oh, wow. So when he passed, COVID had just really started. We were still trying to understand what COVID was. And, they had locked down schools and businesses. And so when I got the call to come to the hospital, first of all, I think that was nobody but God, because it was also at a time where they weren't letting anyone in the hospitals. So when I got the call that morning, I'm thinking, okay, it's just, they need me to come up there, sign some paperwork. So to even be able to be in the room with him when he passed, I consider that a blessing, because
Right.
we were also going through a time where they weren't letting anyone in the hospital. People were dying with no family around. You had to die. You had to say goodbye to your loved ones through FaceTime,
Yeah.
or you may not even got a chance to say goodbye. But for God to choose little old me, show favor upon me to allow me to be with him when he took his last breath, that was a huge, huge blessing, and something I do not take for granted. And then to have to plan his funeral, I literally planned his funeral over FaceTime.
Wow.
It was the most surreal experience I have ever had to deal with, And then for his funeral, I literally could only have 10 people. And you're talking about a man who could fill two or three churches, and I had to pick only 10 people. I
Wow.
mean, how do you do that? And mind you, those 10 people included the minister, the staff at the funeral home. So to go from dealing with somebody with this big of a personality to I have to dwindle it to 10 people, that
Wow.
right there was hard in itself. And then something that I hear at funerals so many times is the funeral is the easy part, because you have people loving on you, you have people hugging on you. What can I do? Coming by the house. I couldn't have anybody come by the house.
Yeah.
I mean, we were in COVID. We couldn't do anything. So it was literally just me and my son. And so it forced me to go into that grieving. It forced me to really start to heal. And it was hard. There were a lot of nights where I just sat up and I screamed, I cried, I said, it's not fair. And I had to do it alone. There were times, I had to be strong to be there for my son. Um, so many times, people wanted to come by, but we couldn't. COVID, it had everybody scared. You were scared just to be around anybody.
Right.
So, to be in the confines of our home and just the four walls, it was me, God, and a prayer. I literally got on my knees every single morning and said, okay, God, it's me and you today. How we going to handle this? How we going to do this? But I think it made me a better person in the end, because it forced me to not have to rely on anyone else to get through it. I had to rely on me, my faith, and my God.
Yeah. Wow. 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 That's a touching story. Missy, you have anything?
Yes. How do you, as a parent, how do you help the grieving child? You're grieving, but you have a child that has to grieve with you. So take us through that process.
I told my son, show whatever emotions you need to. If you need to cry, baby, cry. If you need to scream, scream. If you need to yell, even if you need to cuss, whatever it is you need to do, we will go in that backyard. We threw things. We had days where we just sat up and cried. We had days where he was on his side of the house, I was on my side, and we were in our quiet space. I told him, he admitted to me he was angry with God, and I told him it's okay. I said, be real in your feelings. God knows and God understands. If but you don't stay there. Don't keep that anger. Don't harbor that anger. But just talk to God. The same way I'm talking to you, talk to God. Ask Him. Because when my husband passed of his cancer, it was the second time he had a bout with cancer. So from my son's perspective, he couldn't understand, well, God healed daddy first time. Why didn't he do it this time? And as a parent, how do you answer a question like that? And I said, well, you know what, baby? God needed him more than we did. God said he's done. He had fulfilled his 45 years here on earth, and God was ready for him. And I said, and that's okay. I said, we may not understand and we may not ever understand, but we're going to get through it together. I told him, I am here for you 24/7. It was important to me to make sure that his mental stayed in a healthy place,
Mm-hmm.
especially dealing with COVID. And he was being homeschooled. The schools were closed. He wasn't around any friends. We had just moved into our home. So he was feeling lost. And so it was important for me to tell him, your mama is your ride or die.
Mm.
Whatever it is, come talk to me. We're going to talk about it. We're going to pray about it, and we're going to cry through it together. And I think it has brought us even closer together. We've always been close, but this experience, you can imagine, we're joined at the hips right now.
Right. And so listening even to that aspect, there's beauty, like you said, there's beauty in the ashes of life, right? Because when you get to this place where you have, usually when mothers, we sit and talk with the daughters, we have this connection, but there is a bond that a mother and a son share, as well as a father
Yes.
and a daughter should have. But for you to be able to bring him into that safe place and that haven of your arms and your thought process, to even say that it is okay to be vulnerable. It is okay to cry. You don't have to hold back on your emotions, because men and boys at a young age are taught to be
Oh,
this way. And when they are, you get nothing out of them. They go internally inside and they don't have a voice. They don't get to scream. They don't get to do all these things because it's shunned upon and looked down on when they do that. But for you to
yes.
be a mother, to have that open portal to say, hey, I'm here. However you need to do it, how you need to say it, there is no right or wrong. But at this point, I don't need you to internalize anything. I need
Yes.
you to be upfront with me in personal. And like you said, we're gonna ride this thing together, because I always tell people, they say you can't be your kid's best friend. Well, a 21-year-old can't be the best friend either, or 18, because they haven't lived a life. We 45.
Exactly.
We've been their age, they haven't been ours. And for you to bring a male, your son, into that place is like another highlight of this conversation, because this is what they need to know, that we're here on an open platform. And so many times in the Black community, we've been taught not to talk about anything. We're not even
Yes.
taught to even to grieve correctly. You know what I'm saying? And if we watch how the world do it, we want to pour out some liquor and all that, but you gave him the right place to say, hey, talk to me. and then
Yeah.
still had to be a parent to show your tears to him, to let him know that I'm hurting just as well as you are. And we don't know, understand God's plan, but we know that life is a beginning and an end of a thing, right? We know that there's a time and a season for everything. We just don't know when it's going to hit.
Yeah. And I told him, I said, we all have a birth date, we have an end date. We don't know what that end date is, but what matters the most is that dash in between.
Yes.
And I
Yeah,
said, your dad's dash, it goes on and on and on.
that's
I
awesome.
said, I don't know anybody else who has accomplished as much as he did in 45 years
Yes.
than, any other time. I said, so whatever you need to do, I told him we would get outside and go walk. That was my place of zen. I would get up and go walk every morning. And one morning I kind of saw him kind of, down in the dumps. I said, come on, CJ, walk with me. And we talked. And I told him, I asked him, I said, are you angry with God? And he said, yes, ma'am. And I said, that's
Mm.
okay. Be honest. I said, because God will honor your honesty. And he's okay with that. He understands. You're 15. You lost your hero. You lost your Superman. And I said, I get it. I said, but baby, as long as God got breath in my body, I'm going to be here for you.
Yeah,
Talk to me. Don't hold it in. I offered him, to go to counseling with me. He was like, no, mom, not right now. I'm not ready. I don't want to be forced to talk about something I don't even know what to say. He said,
Mm.
some days I just want to lay in your arms. And I
yeah,
said, that's okay. That's okay. We don't have to say a word. We can just sit here and we can
Just our
cry.
presence. Just our presence. Just the fact that they can hear you breathe. Trust me, honey. I'd be on the
Yes.
phone sometime for 2 hours, and I probably can go to sleep, and she's still gonna be there. Just the fact that she heard me breathe or snore, to talk about it later. But yeah, her
Yes.
capacity. But yes,
yeah.
the same
That's
thing.
awesome. So it's a beautiful, touching story. We got some other topics we're gonna hit, but we want to take this commercial break, and on the other side, we'll come back and jump back into the discussion.
Alrighty.
Well, child, I should have been on seen that commercial long for now.
Hey, I promise you, I didn't choose this because of y'all age or anything. It was just, hey, we just trying to help support our people. So, hey, good information. Appreciate you again, Stacey, for coming in and sharing this great news about your husband, your late husband, and his legacy, the challenge that you experienced. And one of the things that we also talked about was the faith. Man, we can preach and talk about our faith, then one day you got to use it.
Yes.
And you wonder, like, how in the heck did I get through it? In hindsight, it's 2020, but you look back and you say, absolutely, it was the faith, right?
Yes. Oh, yes. It was definitely our faith. We've been a member of our church since we've been in Dallas. So I attend church at Mount Rose, and it's basically border of Duncanville, Dallas. Bishop Jeffrey D. Thomas is my pastor, and he has known me and Chris before we even got married. So, he has poured into us for so many years. And so one of the sermons that he preached a long time ago was, you can see where a person's faith is during a funeral. We all remember the scenes in the movies where the person want to jump in the casket and, oh, don't go, why now, and all of that. And he said, but when you know and you stand flat footed in your faith and God is in control, that that person is okay. That that person is resting in the arms of Jesus. And I think that's where my faith really took over. I remember when Chris passed away, I walked into his hospital room, and they always say the hearing is the last to go. And so I was praying and I was praying and I was praying. And I told him, I said, baby, I'm here. I said, we gonna pray this thing through. I'm gonna pray you on into heaven. And I started praying and I prayed. And literally, when I said amen, he took his last breath. And the doctor walked in and said, they pronounced him. And I think about 2 minutes later, the chaplain came in, and I was sitting and I was holding Chris' hand, and he looked at me and he looked at Chris and he looked at me like, something's wrong. And he said, young lady, do you understand what just happened? I said, yes, sir. I said, my husband is cancer free. he's whole and he's resting in the arms of Jesus, and I'm good. And he kind of looked at me baffled, I think because I wasn't reacting what they're used to seeing, people kind of crying and going crazy. I told him, I said, he's good. And because he's good, I'm good. And that's where my faith kicked in. I knew I put it into high gear because I knew it was only God who was going to be able to get me through a situation like that. Losing a loved one, whether it's a mother, a father, a child, a spouse, it changes you forever. And I am forever changed. But I'm also feel like I'm changed for the better as well, because I know it's nobody but God who's gotten me through and will continue to get me through, with the passing of a best friend, because he literally was my best friend, my soulmate. We did everything together. And so we worshiped together. We were on a football recreation league together. We even through his cancer, we did date nights. We continued to live life just as if he did not have the cancer. We weren't going to let the cancer define or defeat us.
Okay, can I ask you a question? How long was it had he been excuse me, gotta get my mouth together. How long had he been living with cancer? The diagnosis.
He was diagnosed in July of 2019, and April of 2020, he was gone. So it was literally like 9 months.
And so it was was you mind sharing which form of cancer it was?
It was stomach cancer.
Okay.
And so had no symptoms whatsoever. He came home one night. He was working on a high profile case. And I remember he said, Stacey, um, I need to take a nap. And I said, okay. He said, wake me up. I said, okay, sure. So at about 9 o'clock, I woke him up and he went to the restroom, and I heard this big boom.
Mm.
And I said, Chris. And I walked in the room and the bathroom, and he had fallen. He had passed out, and it looked like he was having convulsions. And so I called 911. He was slurring his words. I had no idea what was going on. He, long story short, went to the hospital. They kept him for about 5 days running tests. He did not have a concussion, but it was something about, I guess, whatever the doctors was asking him, his, food intake, how he had been feeling. I think it was the stress of the high profile case he was working on. They did a multiple tests. And 2 weeks later, we found out it was stage 3 stomach cancer.
And
And
go ahead.
go ahead. Mhm.
And so when I was spoken to Gerard earlier, um, not lost a mate, but lost a very, very dear friend of mine, Teresa Hall. And she
Mhm.
was 44 at that time. And we walked that journey with her. And you talking about a journey just to see her tenacity to continue to live and to maneuver and all of those things. And I commend the caregivers, because the caregivers have to really, really endure. Sometimes when it gets to the end, they can be a little bit where they want you to leave them alone because they want to still be strong. They want to be able to handle everything. And so to even know that that's what it was, because hers ended up being lung cancer than bone, but it started in the stomach, because we were like,
Mhm.
how does she have lung cancer? She don't smoke, she don't do any of these things. And so that's why I wanted to ask you that question, because like you said, even though if we don't have a spouse, we've dealt with someone in our capacity that was close to us that
Yes.
we have lost and had to endure the process of that thing. But for you to sit there and what you say and pray him through heaven, I remember putting music in Teresa's room. I was like, she don't need no TV on, Jerry Springer or whatever they used to
Mhm.
put on the TV. And we would put on just a CD that just would play music. And the last song that was playing that particular night when Teresa passed on to be with the Lord, it was at that time it wasn't COVID. So there's quite a few there, because it was 9 of us that helped take care of her. It was Take Me to the King. And that
Mhm.
that was the last song that played. And at the end of that song, she transitioned to glory. So in other words, to even set the atmosphere, knowing where our faith lies and who we know that we trust our loved ones to be going to, that is the aroma of the atmosphere that
Yes.
should be set in every room if you have the opportunity to do so. You see what I'm saying? If that's what we're presented with, because like we said, we see the deterioration of the body and those things, but knowing that this life was now about to transition to the other side, to
Mhm.
glory, that you set the atmosphere that said, if my husband's gonna leave me tonight, I'm gonna make sure, honey, with him
Yes.
going in, he gonna already be over there ready to get his wings
Yes.
put on the back of with his
Yes.
mom. And he's gonna be saying, Lord, I've been waiting for you to say, well done, not good and faithful servant.
Yes.
Wasn't my wife, send me on to you because she knew that it was time for me to be released to come back to you. And she was prepared in her heart and she was
Yes.
prepared in her spirit.
Yes.
But we walked this journey together. So that's when you know that you're in sync with the yokeness of God. You see what I'm saying?
Yes.
That you know that I'm gonna miss you in the present tense.
Oh,
but
yeah.
I got enough strength to stand and stay there knowing that my husband is gone. But guess what? I have faith to know that God gonna take care of me. And he gave me these years to enjoy with him. And you did just what you were supposed to do. You did purpose with him. And I'm just going by just a little bit I got. This is what I do on this type of show. I just listen and absorb. But you can just tell that you walked the journey. Not saying that you didn't have bad days, but you can definitely tell that the good days were there and the substance of the relationship was beautiful. So, baby, that's all I'm just going to say is if we can get stronger in relationships like this, know that when this has to come our way, that we can stand in the midst of this thing. Yeah, I'm going to miss you, but I know you're in a better place. But I'm going to stand knowing that you left something in me to still be a woman of faith, strong without your presence, and that God is still here to cover me in the absence of the physical body. I'm done right there.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. And, we were together for 22 years and married 17. So I literally grew up with him. We got together when I was 22 and he passed when I was 44. That's 22 years. We did all of our first together, first house, first this, first that. And to literally grow up with him, it's just amazing. The things that he taught me, the things that I taught him, I tell people that was my ride or die. Yeah. I mean, you never saw one without the other. We balanced each other out. He said I was the serious one. He was the jovial one. He was, Mr. Friendly, never met a stranger. We were all the way in LA one time and he saw his high school quarterback. We were literally in the hotel working out and all I heard was hammer. And I said, I know good God dog well, we not all the way in California and somebody knows you by your nickname. But again, that was just who he was. He was such a people person. He had this infectious smile. And, I consider a blessing just to have been his wife, just to have been his friend.
Yes.
Like you said, we had our good days, we had our bad days. But marriage is what you make of it. Marriage is truly, truly what you make of it. And I'll tell anybody, at the time that he passed, we were as perfect as we could be. We were intertwined. We went through that journey of cancer as if he didn't have cancer. If you saw him, you wouldn't have even thought he was sick. We had so many people come up to him, man, quit playing. You're not sick. You just getting fine on us. He didn't have that persona or what you think a cancer patient looks like. He was already bald headed, so he didn't lose his hair. And I'll never forget, he had to have a 10-hour surgery. And during that time, I had so many people call us, so many people text, they wanted to come to the hospital. But I was determined I wasn't leaving that hospital until I saw him. And the type of surgery he had was called the high pack. And that's where they inject the body with just a massive amount of chemo. They kind of massage it around to see if it can attack the cancer aggressively. And with a surgery like that, he wasn't expected to be up and walking at least for a week. This man was up and walking in 3 days.
Mama, come on, get up. Get up out the grave.
I got to get up out this bed. Our anniversary was the same time he was in the hospital. He said, I got to take you out on a date. And that man they called him the high pack king because they had never seen somebody get up within 3 days. And I said, that's the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit in him. He was up walking. And for me to look at those videos now, I said, that ain't nobody but God. Nobody but God. And just 3 days. And I'm a numbers person. I said 3. It's something special about that 3.
Yes.
And, he dropped the weight. He was a little bit of a hard patient. I had to call myself Nurse Ratchet. I was like, get up. It's time to walk. It's time to walk. Hey, see, I don't want to. Get up. You got up in 3 days. I'm going to get you up now. Let's get up and walk. So I became known as Nurse Ratchet. That's how they knew me at church, Nurse Ratchet.
Well, Chris didn't want to walk, but Nurse Ratchet was on him. So
I was on him.
We're going to go to another commercial break. We're going to come back, and then we're going to award the scholarship. How about that? So
sounds good.
So that commercials from our very own Tamika of Mogul TV Global. She's one of
Mhm.
our partners and help get our word out and put our show on different platforms. So if you got any questions, you're thinking about expanding, Stacey, and reaching other folks, Stacey, reach out to Tamika, man. She is
What?
definitely a resource. So um, out there in the comments, keep comments coming. If you got questions or anything that you want to state, Stacy, put them up and we'll make sure we get to them. But we're gonna let Stacy talk about this scholarship again, and which is one of the reasons we're here, and let her announce who the winner is. How about that?
Wonderful. So, 2 years ago, I decided to create the scholarship, not knowing how it was going to be done, not knowing how it was going to be funded, but I knew I wanted to do something in honor of Chris and who he was. And so I came up with this memorial scholarship in his name. Last year, I awarded the first one to a young lady who goes to my church. He always used to say, "Oh, that little girl is going places," and she actually is a uh, student at Vanderbilt. And so he always used to say, "She's going places." So I just went and awarded it to her, and she was so appreciative. She checked in with me over the course of the school year, let me know how she was doing. Just a beautiful young lady. And so when I really thought about how I wanted to do it this year, I wanted to expand it. I wanted to make it just a little bit bigger. And I decided, you know what? What's the best form of communication right now? Social media. So I decided, I'm really big on the living and loving intentionally. I think that that's what we did. Even through his cancer, even through the days when he was in so much pain, we just continued to live and love it on each other intentionally. And so I made the post and, set the criteria. I wanted the high school senior to write an essay on what living and loving intentionally means to them and how they live it each day of their life. And the applicants, I mean, blew me away with their stories. I always say we all have a story, regardless of our age. And so to read their stories, to read what it meant to them, it really, really touched me. And so I never told them how much the scholarship was. I didn't want the basis of the essay or them applying to be so much about, oh, it's the scholarship is about this much. I really wanted them to think about, what it means to live and love intentionally, because, it's not just a cliche. Tomorrow is not promised to any of us. And so I had applicants as far as Alabama that
Mm.
applied, and that it just overtook me. I said, "Okay, God, you put this vision in me, so my hope is each year I can, expand it. Maybe eventually give out two or three." But this year, I was blessed to be able to give out a $1,000 scholarship.
Yes.
And I'm such a numbers person that when I was praying about the amount, I said, how do I want to do this? How do I want to honor Chris? And I came up with 1,700 is for the number of completion. This young person, this high school senior, has completed such a great milestone by finishing high school. So that's where the seven comes from. It's that number of completion. The 300 comes from the Trinity, the Holy, Father, Spirit, and the Holy Ghost. So I put those together, and that's how I came up with $1,000. And I awarded it to a young lady out of Houston, Texas, Ariana Jinmi. And I've already called and let her know that she is the winner. I met her through FaceTime. Beautiful young lady. Her essay just touched me. I kept going back. It kept tugging at me and it kept tugging at me. And each applicant wrote a compelling essay. All of them were so, so heartfelt. But when you pray about things before you get started, there's always one that tugs at you, and it was hers. And so she was excited. She was um, very grateful and thankful. And so I was just to put a smile on her face, just to be able to say, congratulations, well done, and continue to live and love intentionally, and just go out there and do great things.
Yeah.
Yes.
So I was just if you don't mind, can you share parts of her essay? Just what about it just stood out?
Um, I think what stood out the most was when she said it was her grandfather who really taught her about living and loving intentionally, how he instilled the intentional word into her. And it just made me think of me and Chris. We were intentional with each other, and a relationship doesn't always have to be a romantic relationship. You know, we have best friend relationships, co-worker relationships, and we should always nurture those relationships. And for her, her grandfather was that intentional relationship for her. And although he's passed on, it was just those memories, those lessons that he taught her, that she said, you know what, she didn't put a word to it, she didn't put a philosophy to it, but then when she started listening and learning about my living and loving intentionally, she was like, that's it, that's what Pops told me to do each and every day, because what, life is but a vapor. And so for her to carry that, it just really stuck with me.
Yeah, my motto, I always say this. I started saying it probably last year with the podcast. I'll live while I'm living, but I won't die while I live. And so
Hmm.
listening to you and Chris it was just the fact that you were loving him to life even when death was present. That's
Yes.
that right there. You didn't choose to let death take over. You chose to love in that moment, live in that moment, even though this was something that was around the corner that could have happened at any moment. You chose to, like you said, that nobody ever looked at him and could think that he was even in this process or even going through all this in his physical body. So if we, because we love to say, "Oh, I love you to death," and I just kind of like, well, no, I want to love you to life, and so
Yes.
that means whatever we're going through, I want to love you and breathe life into you in every
Yes.
capacity that I can. And so you and Chris have a beautiful love story. And you
Thank
can just,
you.
and then just to look at the peace of God resting on you. And I'm not saying you don't, there's not tears that come with this, but to be able to look at you and just say God is just resting on you to give you the strength and even the fortitude to know that you got, this is a bigger this is going to be much bigger for you,
Bigger than me.
because when
Oh,
you open up that portal to even extend it outside of the region of Dallas, and you got these letters from different people, that within itself said enough, right? And
yeah.
so this will get bigger. I believe you'll get people that'll begin to pour into the scholarship fund for you when you make that accessible too, and they're gonna begin to just be able to do it simply because of the story and the journey that you're sharing with us here. Many people will replay this and watch it, and just to hear the essence of the beauty of this, there is a return fold, honey. Do you hear me?
Thank
There is a
you.
return fold.
Yeah,
Thank
and
you.
I
I
want to
truly go
go ahead.
ahead. Mhm.
Go
No,
ahead.
I was just gonna say, the Bible teaches us, to whom much is given, much is required.
Yes.
And what he gave me in Chris, as a friend, as a lover, as a husband,
Mm-hmm.
as a confidant, I have to give back. I can't
Yes.
help but to give back. I have to share him and share what God allowed me to be blessed with for 22 plus years. And so that's what I tell my son. We're going to cultivate each and every relationship.
Come on,
And
cultivate.
so cultivation, that's my new word. We're
Yes.
going to cultivate relationships, because life is literally too short. It's too short for the
Mm-hmm.
drama, the petty, the messiness, and we got to live and love on each other.
Mm-hmm.
I love it. I love it. Just thinking how important it is to hear your story, and I appreciate that you're willing to share it.
Yes.
Sometimes we get in situations that are so dark, or just seem so hopeless that we don't know how we're going to get through it. Just hope and have some kind of faith that you can. And I think you sharing your story, and it's kind of what Shakita is saying. She said, "Stacey, my friend, to hear you speak about your husband is a beautiful thing. I'm glad you were able to experience such a priceless
Yes.
Yes,
relationship." So I'll let you
yes,
speak on that real
priceless.
quick before we.
Oh yeah, it definitely was a priceless. I don't know. He was just a unique individual, and I know we all think our husband or our wives or our mom and dad are the best, but he was the best. And to be loved unconditionally as women, that's a beautiful thing. When a man will love you if you're 300 pounds or
Come on.
200 pounds, when a man will love you regardless of how you look in the morning, when you look your worst or when you look your best. Unconditional love is one of the most priceless types of love you can get. And he gave me that. He loved me through my flaws, through my weaknesses, through my strengths, and we gleaned from each other. And
Mm-hmm.
I tell my son each and every day, your daddy was a blessing. He was a true blessing to me. My mom was just here this weekend, and we shared so many stories. And she used to say, I miss my big baby. I said, not as much as I do.
said
Not as
something
much
very
as I
early
do.
that was really beautiful too, because I always say in relationships or even in marriages, we are the balance to the imbalance of the person. And you tapped in on that earlier when you were saying that y'all were this balance for each other, because it's always, if you aren't the outgoing person, he was. So there was a balance to your imbalance in that department. We
Yes,
also had a comment by Greg, I'm sorry. The Jeffersons were a great part of marriage ministry in our church. Love them. So see, there's some more flowers for you to take on.
yes. We had
Right.
such an amazing village. Oh my gosh. I call them our villagers. And just even 3 years later, they're still calling and checking on us. Or Stacey, let me see your eyes. Let me see how you're doing. How's CJ doing? And now that he's getting ready to go to PV, what you gonna do in that house by yourself? I said, I don't know, but I'm gonna have to figure something out. Y'all scoot over. Stacy's coming to spend the night, but
Right.
just to see how far he's come in even his healing process.
Yes.
I wasn't the only one who lost someone. My bonus daughter lost her father. My son lost his father. So making sure that he was good from a mental perspective was very, very important for me. I do my check-ins. I'll text them, you okay? You
Yeah,
good? Do we need to, go have dinner and, just chat it up, spit
yeah,
some knowledge to you. And so I thank God for the relationship, and he's now like my little protector. So I can't
of
go too
course.
many places. But Mama, where you going? Who you
Yeah,
going with?
yeah, that's a beautiful thing to see that parenting still had to happen. And
Yes.
Yes,
that looks a number of different ways. He's still a growing young man. And I
yes,
always tell people, boys come with different challenges.
yes.
Well, I just remember what I was doing. I don't know if that necessarily your story. I was climbing houses and setting fires and man, you name it. I was just man, I was rough. So hats off for you for your successful story with raising a young man that's going off to Prairie View, going to do great things.
Yes.
What is he going to school for?
He is going to follow in his dad's footsteps and
Okay,
study criminal justice. He wants
yeah,
to be a criminal. He wants to be a probation officer. He's not sure about juvenile or adult, but he wants to go into criminal justice like his dad.
yeah. Yeah, so here's another comment. It says Stacey has been so intentional, that word again, on keeping Chris such a huge part of CJ's life and his senior year. So again, hats off
Yes.
to you for that.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So we're gonna do some parting thoughts. I'll start with IC. Do you want to leave the words with people with some encouragement or whatever you want to
Well,
give?
child, I think I just jumped out in there earlier, but all I'm going to say is continue to water the garden that he left you behind, because the seeds he left in this garden, honey, you have been a good tender to the garden, and like I said, it's going to yield more than you've ever expected doing this, and you're not going to only just help, through his legacy, you're going to help other women that have to go through this grieving process, and not just as a wife, but as a mother, and to help them. So your your journey is a lot more than I think that you probably expected,
Expected.
but I think that you're gonna be well prepared.
Yeah.
I just know that because of this journey, because we don't really find love stories anymore, right? We
Mm-hmm.
hear stories, but we don't really hear love stories or covenant love stories. Let's say that. And to be able to see this, I just know that there's just going to be some more beauty that comes from this. It's like a beautiful tree. Matter of fact, you just a Tamar tree. I'm gonna say that you're gonna withstand the storm, and you probably bent and didn't break, but you've weathered the storm, and you're gonna be
Yeah.
very effective in this legacy for him, and it's gonna help your son be able to even have a vocal point at this point to come forth and to talk about it too. So it's gonna be something amazing. As they say, there is a book there, and I believe there's one that just anybody can take something from it, to especially about living and loving intentionally, right? Make sure I
Intentionally.
put that intentionally on there,
Yeah.
because so many times that we don't. I look forward to the journey. I speak God's covering and the grace over you, that he will
Thank
continue to
you.
strengthen you and to pour into you and to give you insight from different directions that you have never had the capacity to even think that you could hold, but you will pour out and you will give to so many people and water other people's lives, not just from your story and your husband, but just from a place that God has placed this on you to be able to be effective in the kingdom for God, and that you're gonna
Thank
be
you so
not
much.
that you're gonna be all right, baby. You is all right.
Thank you.
You
Thank
keep
you. I was just telling Gerard earlier, I said, you know what, when I tell people I'm okay, I am so good mentally, emotionally, physically, and spiritually.
Yeah.
I'm just in such a good place. And I think it's because of the healing that I did it. I did it in a healthy way. I didn't
Mhm.
rush it. And I'm still healing. You know, you
Mhm.
just don't say goodbye to a love like that and think, oh, I'm going to be good. I still have my days. I still have my nights, but I am such in a good place. And I owe it all to my villagers. I owe it all to my family, my son who is here looking at me like, me too, mama.
Yeah, I see that shadow. Hey, tell him to come on the camera. I want to see CJ.
Come on, CJ.
Well, hey, CJ.
Hey, I never
How
officially
are
met him.
you?
You know, when you see people grow up on Facebook, you almost feel like you know him. So
Yes,
appreciate you sharing. So
yes.
hey, I'm wishing just great success for you, CJ, man. We've been praying for you and your mom, and go to Prayer View and do some great things.
Right.
Well, thank you.
You're
Yeah.
welcome.
So we got something from Christy,
What I,
your
yeah,
road dog.
I was gonna say something about the Eminem. She wants you to tell us about
Yeah.
the Eminem story.
Oh my gosh. So last year I had the honor of speaking at our marriage ministry conference, and the theme was living and loving intentionally. And so during my speech, I talked about when Chris was close towards the end, he was in so much pain. And we would sit in the bed and eat M&Ms. We would sit in the bed and watch TV. We would talk. We would turn on the music and dance to like Anita Baker, The Temptations. And
Come on.
he would be in so much pain, but I would literally hold him up and I would say, just put your arms on me and just we're just gonna
Yes.
sway side to side. And
Yes.
so I told the story to the couples when you're having those hard moments, when you're having those difficult moments, grab you a jar of M&Ms and sit up and just eat them together. We had M&Ms all in the bed with us, but it was that was our bonding moment. And
Yes.
so I gave out a what I call a living and loving intentionally box. And in that box, I gave them a small jar of M&Ms and told them to keep it next to their bed and to be reminded this is how you live and love intentionally through the good times and the hard times, because that's what's going to make you stronger are those hard times. The easy, it's just that they're easy. It's those hard times and when you're having to live out those vows, you know, for better or for worse, in sickness and in health, for richer or for poorer, because
Hmm.
when they come, they will test you. And we were truly tested in each of our vows. But, you know, praise God, we made it through. And I got to put a period on when he said, till death do us part.
Baby, let me tell you something. I think that my wind got a little on my eyes over here. I feel like the Gerard was going in. All I could hear with that Eminem was maintaining momentum.
Yes.
Y'all maintain momentum
Yes.
in that process. So yeah, child, I'm gonna have to probably just get some M&Ms and just keep them till my
Keep
husband
them.
finds it, child.
Yes. Yes. The M&Ms. And to this day, when I eat an M&M, I just have to laugh and say, okay, Chris, this for you.
Yeah,
CJ got on my nerves. Let me go get my M&Ms.
Yes.
that's dope. So one other thing before we go, I know you talked about um, the foundation, but one of the things you're going to do is offer T-shirts. So that's something coming here
Yes.
soon, right?
So I'm working on a t-shirt. I have a logo. Currently working to find a vendor because I do want to start selling t-shirts with the logo "Living and Loving Intentionally." I want to put it out there in the atmosphere. I want to, you know, they always say name and claim it. So I want to put it out there in the atmosphere. We see so much other stuff that's been put out. So I want to start doing that. And then all proceeds when I do start with the selling of the t-shirts will go towards the scholarship for next year. And so that's a way that I can start funding because for this year and last year, I funded the scholarship out of my pocket. And
Mm.
so going forward, I want to be able to do the t-shirts and have the bracelets because I want it to be that catchphrase, you know, hashtag living and loving intentionally, you know, just hone in on that intentional word because it is such an important word and it's a loaded word.
Yeah.
Yeah, it
There's
is.
no, there's no, I listen to what you're saying, and people say to honor the marriage, but you went beyond that. You honored the covenant, and there's
Yes.
something to be said about that. You know, sometimes we get so focused on the marriage that we forget the covenant that was established that brought about the marriage. And man, God bless you for that, your story, for continuing and showing people that there's life after a
After.
tragedy as well.
Yes,
So,
it
man,
is.
thank you, and we praise you for
Thank you.
all that you are.
Thank
class of
you. I
94.
appreciate you. Thank you.
So, you got any parting words before we go?
I just want to first thank you both for having me. Gerard, you know how nervous I was, but I appreciate you. You pushing me past my limits. You are pushing me outside of my box, but I have enjoyed it. It's been just like a natural conversation with cousins.
Yeah,
So I always say, y'all my cousins now. I appreciate you guys so much. And if I could say anything to anyone, regardless of what your relationship is, mine just happened to be my husband, but nurture each and every relationship that you have. Nurture, love on them, hug them, call them and tell them you love them. If it's somebody that you haven't talked to in a long time, just send them a text. Be intentional in everything that you do and watch God return it to you 100-fold, because it has truly been returned to me 100-fold in so many ways.
Wow, wow, wow. That's an amazing story. So again, thank you. You brought out the viewers. We got some new people. So
yes.
listen to your people. I'll let you tell them. I'm gonna say it, but I want you to tell them too, because they're gonna listen to you. Tell them to go subscribe to the Floor is Yours podcast page.
I want all my friends, family, cousins, aunts, uncles, whomever is out there. If you are connected to me, I urge you to go and subscribe to this Floor is Yours podcast. I've watched them over the years. Awesome, awesome team, awesome topics that they cover. Just a great panel of individuals, and just show them love, support. We have to support each other. That's what life is all about, supporting each other. And again, it comes back to you tenfold, 10 times over.
Yeah, yeah.
Thank you
And
so
for the
much.
people that's not on social media a lot, for us, Facebook and IG, we're on YouTube too. So almost everybody and their mama got a Google account. So go to
Hello.
YouTube and follow us on there too. This is a
You got
blessing.
some
We
form of
appreciate
social
everybody.
media.
Huh?
I said everybody has some form of social
Oh,
media.
yeah. Man, you brought the viewers out. We appreciate everybody for tuning in.
Thank
Then you
you.
got your Ace Boone, Christy, she's on. We got Tamika as well, and a host of other people from your church and from Texas County.
Yes.
No way I can name everybody. I just came off this other podcast before this one that was called Strong Black Women, and it talked
Wow.
about the need to walk in your strength. But I
Mm,
watched them in they didn't talk about it in this format. And it just shows that strength comes in different forms, different
In
fashions.
different forms.
Yeah.
Yes, I
Prepare
appreciate you
yourself.
guys so much. Thank you. I
Yeah.
appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah. One more from Christy. Appreciate your classmate.
Thank you. Love you.
All right, here we go.
Now it's my turn to tell y'all about my big bro Gerard and the podcast crew. From DJ to realist, Miss Cookie the professor, and you can't forget about the inspiration shit. They talk about it all, got advice for us all. You'll never know how deep the talks will go. On the weekdays, the weekends, they be going live with the topics. Then they do the segment where the floor is yours. You can post your comments, you can post your statements, yeah. You can ask your questions, They can help you get your life moving in the right direction. If you need advice on marriage, advice on finance, advice on healing, advice on credit, this the podcast that you need to check out. Go ahead and tune in, you'll feel what I'm talking about. Baby, I'ma get the floor is yours. Yeah, baby, I mean the floor is yours. If it come down to the floor is yours. Let me show you how blue the floor is yours. Hey, the floor is yours. The floor is yours. Nah, 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 nah. The floor is yours. The floor is yours. Nah, 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 nah. The floor is yours.
Love y'all. Good
Man,
night.
that is
Thank
my
you.
jam right there.
Thank
Appreciate
you so
everybody.
much. Thank you. I appreciate you